When you're looking at a mini PC, the first thing that makes you pause is whether you're trading away something you actually need: extra ports, raw power, or the ability to upgrade later just to save a few square inches on your desk. I get that hesitation, especially when the market is full of sleek boxes that promise everything, but end up feeling like a compromise. In this review, I'm going to walk through exactly where the HP ProDesk 4 G1i lands, what kind of day-to-day tasks it handles comfortably, and where it starts to feel out of its depth. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the space factor, because that's the headline feature of any mini PC. The ProDesk 4 sits in a chassis that's about the size of a paperback book, which means you can slip it behind a monitor, tuck it into a thin shelf, or even mount it on a wall using the optional VESA bracket. For a home office that's already crowded with a printer, a router, and a couple of coffee mugs, that footprint alone is a real win. The downside is that the compact case limits how much you can add later. The unit ships with 16 GB of DDR5 RAM and a 256 GB SSD, which feels generous for web browsing, office work, and light Photoshop sessions. If you ever need more storage, you'll have to replace the SSD rather than simply pop a second drive into a spare bay. There's just one 2.5-inch slot inside, and no room for a traditional 3.5-inch hard drive. Ports are another place where the mini PC reality check happens. On the front you get a USB-C that supports power delivery, a single USB-A 3.2 Gen 1, and a headphone mic combo. The rear panel adds two more USB-A ports, a DisplayPort, an HDMI 2.0b Ethernet, and the classic VGA output for legacy monitors. For most modern setups you'll be fine with HDMI or DisplayPort, but if you rely on older projectors or need a USB-C hub for a tablet, you'll have to bring your own adapters. The inclusion of a full Ethernet jack is a solid nod to business users who still value wired network stability over Wi-Fi. Now onto the heart of the machine, the Intel Core Ultra 7265T paired with the Q870 chipset. This isn't a gaming-grade CPU, but it's built for business workloads and runs Windows 11 Pro out of the box, which is a plus if you need domain join capabilities or BitLocker. In practice, I found it breezy for multitasking with Chrome tabs, Outlook, and a couple of cloud-based design tools open at the same time. Rendering a 1080p video in a basic editor took a few minutes longer than a mid-range laptop, but the system didn't stutter. For anyone whose daily routine is spreadsheets, email, video calls, and occasional light media editing, the ProDesk 4 offers enough horsepower to keep you productive without feeling sluggish. Thermals are where the compact design can bite you. The unit uses a single low-profile fan that spins quietly at idle, almost imperceptible in a quiet office. Under sustained load, like when you're compressing a batch of PDFs or running a virtual machine, the fan ramps up to a modest whine that you'll notice, but it never becomes a full-blown roar. Heat stays within safe limits thanks to the aluminum heat spreader, though the chassis does get warm to the touch after an hour of continuous work. If your office is already warm, you might want to give the PC some breathing room on a vented surface rather than tucking it behind a wall. One practical strength that shows up in real use is the built-in vPro technology. For IT teams that manage devices remotely, vPro enables out-of-band management, firmware updates, and remote troubleshooting without needing the OS to be running. If you're a small business or a freelancer who wants a machine that can be rebooted and patched by a tech partner without you having to be at the desk, that's a tangible benefit. On the flip side, for a home user who never interacts with a corporate IT department, vPro ends up being a feature that sits on the shelf. Upgrade ease is a mixed bag. The RAM is soldered, so you can't just add a second stick later. The SSD is on a standard M.2 slot, which is good. You can swap it out for a larger drive if you outgrow the 256 GB, but you'll need to reinstall Windows or clone the drive yourself. The lack of an accessible graphics card slot also means you won't be able to boost GPU performance, the integrated Intel graphics are fine for 2K monitors and video conferencing, but they won't handle 3D modeling or modern game titles. So, if you're someone who likes to future-proof a system by adding a discrete GPU down the line, a mini PC like this isn't the right path. Let's talk about where the ProDesk 4 actually shines versus where a traditional tower or a laptop makes more sense. If you need a permanent workstation that stays on your desk, doesn't take up space, and can be tucked away when